Hi, my name is Augustinas. I'm a software developer at Oxylabs, so everybody calls me Augie.
Yeah, hi, my name is Alex. I'm a product owner here at Oxylabs. Welcome to the first episode of OxyCast.
That's right. That's right. Welcome to the OxyCast. Alex, today we're going to talk about all things web scraping related, but I'm pretty sure that you have the concrete topic for today.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, let's see what this goes, but I think we should be talking about, what is web scraping in general, why is it useful, what makes it difficult to do web scraping, should you do it at all? I mean, should you scrape the web yourself or just buy the data or, do that sort of stuff? So I think that's the broad topic of today's discussion, right?
Sounds about right. So I think we should probably start from the bread and butter. What exactly is a web scraper?
Okay. Well, web scraping. I'm sure there's like 100 definitions of what is web scraping. But here at Oxylabs, at least, we consider scraping to be the act of making a request to a web server somewhere out there to get a piece of data, and for that to be happening automatically, and that data has to be mostly not meant to be consumed by bots. It's meant to be consumed by sort of live actors. So scraping is automated data gathering from the web, where you pretend to be mostly a human being, and you try to sort of get the data this way.
So in developer terms, it would be something like getting structurized data from raw HTML rather than having something like JSON or XML.
Well, it depends. Sometimes you can get the structured data right from the source, but mostly your data gathering from the web will consist for at least two parts. So the first part is actually getting some content from out there, right? And the second part is structurizing that some content that you get to make it useful to you. And that process is called parsing. So for the purpose of this discussion, let's say that scraping is the part where you get the data from out there, and parsing is where you transform it, from a bit of HTML code to something that is structured, whether it's a JSON, CSV, or any other format you choose.
Okay, and so the obvious question that comes to my mind is, why would anybody want to do that?
Yeah, I mean there are a few reasons you would want to do that, but you wouldn't want to do that, obviously, if you can't use the data, but there's a lot of uses for the data once you get it from the web. So just to mention a few popular use cases, if you want to do SEO, you'll want to sort of keep tracking where your domain is among the search results on any web search engine. Or let's say if you want to do a bit of market analysis and find out, the prices that your competitors are selling their, for instance, pencils for on 100 different marketplaces, well, you'll soon find that it's very hard, if not impossible, to do it by hand. So you must have an automated system that does it all for you, and at the end of the day, you'll either be looking at a report that's got all the scrape data in it, or you may be looking at a chart or something like really visually well prepared, or that data could be fueling, instead of just being available for you to read, you could fuel some other processes in your company, and could be used as input for other stages. For instance, you could use it you could use the scrape data to just power your dynamic pricing model. So you find out, your competitors' sort of pricing level, and you adjust your price based on that.
You mentioned an example where you talked about finding where exactly we are in the SEO results. Just to confirm, that's not exactly what we do, as in we don't form the reports ourselves. All we do is just give other people the data so that they can construct the reports themselves, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we mostly operate at a very granular level, if I may put it this way. So for us, a single scraping job is when you get some data that can be found at a particular URL. So you get the HTML, parse it, and deliver it back to you, well, to your customer. So that's a single operation. But if you, let's say you wanna build a good report, you'll need to do at least, a few hundred of these operations to find out how you're doing, basically, where you rank for different keywords in all the various locations, if that makes sense. Because a lot of search engines will return you a different result set based on where you are as a user. And you may also get different results depending on what kind of or what type of a device you're running the search on, whether it's a mobile phone or a desktop computer. You may get very different results.
So just to confirm, we not only scrape and parse these websites, we also put them in a standard data structure so that people could use that data for what they want. Is that about right?
Well, we do scraping and parsing mostly. And I should perhaps mention that when I say we, I'm talking about Oxylabs and the product that's called Scraper APIs in particular. So we do scraping and we do parsing, and then we sort of just give the structured result, which is a JSON mostly. We give that to our customers, and then they try to make sense of it. So the result actually goes through multiple transformations once it gets to the customer, and we sort of just assume that they know what they're doing and they can actually derive the insights based on the data that we give them.
All right, and Alex, just out of curiosity, have you ever had to use a scraper for example, one of your own purposes?
I'll be honest, I didn't have to do it. Well, I mean, I haven't done it. I did run, just try to play around and run some tests with our system and see how it works, whether or not I'm able to, use it as a regular customer. Well, I've not built my own projects, no.
I'm asking because before even joining Oxylabs, I actually have built a web scraper by myself.
Yeah.
It was for this little e-commerce website where I wanted to, well, it was sort of like eBay.
Okay. It's just a marketplace, like an auction marketplace.
Exactly, and people would post all of their own things and try to sell like all of these random things like audio gear and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the purpose of that was to sort of like find the best deals in audio gear, and then I would like to buy those things and then resell it. And in my case, building a web scraper wasn't that hard. In essence, all I had to do was to make an HTTP request and honestly just parse the HTML result, and that was basically all there was to my little project.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that since we're working with such a big company, that there's more than that to web scrapers in general, and that there are probably a million of issues that can occur while we try to do this web scraping thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's at least 3 types of issues I could talk about here. So one, thing that's very evident is that, well, even though you were able to scrape your site that you extracted, the audio gear sort of listings from, it does not mean that it would be as easy to do it on some other sites that we work with. And well, perhaps you were lucky, or perhaps you just didn't have a big enough appetite for the data so that, you know, the site would really notice that.
Yeah,
that you're
that's
doing
about
something.
right. I made like 100 requests top per day, and
That's just, you know, 100 requests per day with your home IP. That shouldn't raise too many red flags for most sites. So that's all right. But imagine if you want to do it, if you want to scale your operations like tenfold or 100-fold, at some point you would run into issues, and you know, at that point you start thinking, how can I optimize this, and you know, not just keep like stupidly just bombarding the site with requests and see, you know, trying to collect your data somehow. So you must develop smart ways of scraping sites, and that includes, well, you know, managing the proxies that you are using.
So
well, first of all, you should use proxies, right?
right. So these are the smart ways to scrape a website, as in you're not actually using your own home IP address, but you're using some proxy to forward the traffic into the other websites that you're trying to scrape.
Yeah. Well, you know what proxies does is it just masks your IP address. So instead of the web server you're trying to get scraped data from, basically, seeing your IP address, your home IP address, what it sees is an IP address of a proxy server. And then imagine you have 100 of those proxy servers. So instead of being seen as this big entity that's trying to scrape something from, you know, a search engine, what the search engine sees on its side, it sees 100 small entities with the IPs that are assigned to your proxy servers, right? The search engine only sees those, and it's a bit harder for it to really bring it all back to you, and, you know, sort of come to a conclusion that it's, you know, this bad guy basically that's trying to scrape us, right? So that's just step one. That's you know, the first point where you should start optimizing your scraping activity. But there's so much more.
Like what?
Well, you know, you could look at your request that you are sending to the website, because you see when you're, okay, well, to get a bit techie here, when you're sending an HTTPS request, you're making a GET request to a particular, and you're asking the web server to return whatever is on the URL that you're asking to retrieve, basically. But you're not just asking for stuff. You are sending a bit of information about who you are. So they get stuff like your ability to consume compressed content, the language preferences you may have on your browser, the browser and operating system model, and, you know, they may also get some information of whether, if you've been on the site before as a real user, you will have received a set of cookies from, you know, in most cases from the webmaster or website, and with consecutive requests you would be sending those cookies as well. So there's the whole, you know, sort of user fingerprint that comes into the picture here. And if you're trying to scrape, that is, gather data automatically without, you know, too much human interference, you will have to form a fingerprint that's believable to the site you're trying to scrape. So that can be tough at times.
And is it correct to say that a lot of what we do here at Oxylabs is exactly that, preparing those fingerprints and making sure that we essentially don't get blocked by these websites?
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge part of what we do here, and it's not always easy, I'll tell you that. You know, you can, I mean, as I worked in this company for like 4 years, and it's always been a game of cat and mouse, and you know, we would evolve our ability to scrape a particular site, and then they would evolve their capabilities of, you know, finding us out and then blocking us. So
it's pretty hard for newcomers to come into, because there are probably already all of these like strategies that websites use in order to block you from.
Yeah, man. I mean, it used to be much easier, but now it's getting harder. Definitely, and the thing is, you cannot just build it once and forget it. You have to regularly get back to tweaking your approaches to,
It's a pet. It's something that you keep maintaining for a while. Then.
Yeah. You've got to. I mean, obviously, if you're trying to scrape a website, you will want to monitor how successful you are at doing it, and then you see your success rate dropping, below a certain threshold. And that's the point where you would usually say, well, I must do something, because in a lot of cases, even if you're making a request that does not really bring you useful data, well, you get blocked basically. You get a CAPTCHA to solve, right? In a lot of cases, you will still be consuming traffic while you're making those requests, and usually. You are paying for your proxy traffic, so you are paying regardless whether you're getting good results or not. You're paying for the traffic, so you better optimize your your scraping approach so that you're not spending too much on your traffic.
And then when you use something like our products, you not only get a website scrape, you also get a bunch of these like dependencies, like the proxies that we use, sort of paid for you already.
Yeah, I mean, it's all included in the price. So you get really, you don't really need to manage proxies, or as a user, you don't really need to worry about whether there are proxies or not. You just tell us what to scrape, give us a few parameters we can work with, and then we'll figure out the optimal approach towards a particular site or URL and get it done in real time.
All right. Well, we have all of these like blocking issues, but then another question that comes to my mind is that you probably can't scrape every single website on the internet. It's probably a bit more difficult than that, because when I had to make my scraper, the process of parsing the HTML was that I had to find specific CSS selectors, and I just had to go through the website with HTML inspect and find those identifiers basically to get me the data that I need. But when you are trying to do a product that handles all of those cases, it's probably not as easy.
I mean, scraping can be generalized much easier than parsing. So just if you know how to create a believable fingerprint, that works on one site. If you optimize it enough, it's going to work on a bunch of other sites basically. So the knowledge you have built while figuring out how to build a good fingerprint so that you can scrape something. Once you have that knowledge, you can apply it to scrape a lot of different sites. But then with parsing, well, it's a different game with parsing, because each website or each page type on the website you're trying to scrape, it will have a different element layout. So whether you're using XPath, regex, or CSS selectors, you will have to define your selectors for every particular page type you want to parse, because you will find your useful elements, for instance, your product title, your price, or whatever else there may be. You will find them in different places within the HTML code. So even though once you learn how to scrape, you can apply the knowledge across a lot of different sites quite seamlessly, right? You will have to more or less build your parses from scratch for each individual type of page you are trying to parse.
I guess I don't really feel like my question was answered here. The idea is that we can scrape a lot of websites, right? We have the technology to scrape basically anything. Well, I'm saying basically. There's probably a bunch of exceptions, but every time you sort of think you can do everything, there comes a side that. Yeah, but what I wanted to ask was that the parsing part is sort of unclear to me. we can scrape a lot of things, but we
Yeah.
probably don't know how to parse most of the things that we scrape, right? Because as you said, every website is unique. They have their
Yeah.
own HTML structure.
Yeah.
You have to find the selectors or the regexes or whatever you want to use to ID the specific elements or
Yeah.
the specific data that you want to get out of that website. And so my question is, how do we handle those cases where we don't really know how to parse a specific website? Do we just tell the client that, I'm sorry, we just don't know how to do that? Or
Well, it's not a technical question. I mean, the thing you are asking is, it's always possible to find a selector that matches the stuff you want to parse. So, given enough time and having spent enough effort, you can build a parser for any page type. The
Right.
question is for us whether it's worth actually building it for our clients, or we must have a financial incentive to do it, right? Because we're a business. So just finding that common ground with our client and agreeing that they're gonna pay us for if we build it, they're actually gonna use it. If we have that kind of understanding, we can justify building something from scratch.
so if I come as a new client to Oxylabs and I find that you don't exactly at this moment support parsing a specific website, what you're saying is that in those cases, because there are probably cases where you just can't really parse websites, or
I don't know. Well, I mean, you tell me. I think it's mostly doable, but the question is whether it's worth it, whether it's worth our effort, and whether it's worth for the client to actually pay for the to wait a couple of weeks at least while we build the parser and then subscribe to using it.
Okay, I got myself some water, Alex. I had a thought that I remember seeing this thing as a universal source in one of our products, and what I remember seeing specifically there is that you can basically select any website that you want, right? And when you select any website, I'm assuming that you will have some standardized response, JSON response from that website.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
okay.
Meaning that we do probably have some rules in order to parse a website completely, and then, no matter what kind of website it is, and that we probably can't always succeed with those rules. And then that also probably means that that data that we end up parsing there doesn't always make sense. It's not what the client always needs, right?
It's a loaded question. I mean, we can scrape almost any website out there. Like I said, if you want to build a parser, mostly you have to build it for the page type you want to extract, you want to parse the bits out of, right? But we have this machine learning based parser. We call it the adaptive parser. So basically it's an ML model that we fed a lot of e-commerce product pages into, and we label the data so that every page, the model knows on every page where there is the price, the title, the bullet points of item description, things like that.
First time I'm hearing about it.
Yeah. So we fed a lot of data into that model, and basically now it's able to make a really good prediction on where you'll find the price, the title, and all the other descriptors of the
Key information that you usually need.
Yeah, the key information of where to find it on a page that we've not seen before, basically. So even though it's something that we've not seen before, we've not worked it before, we're still able to extract the basic information that really most of our customers still have to extract anyway.
And so for those cases that this doesn't work, that's where you meant that we actually invest an additional amount of time where we talk with our clients and make sure that the websites are parsed correctly and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, so there's two things. We may be unable to parse particular layout completely. Well, it just may happen. It just may happen. You never know. So that may happen. And the other thing is that, some clients have really custom requirements. They don't want to just get the standardized, the 80% sort of their requirements. They want to have exactly what they need, and that may not be what we provide as part of our standard output.
With this machine learning application.
Yeah, you can just do so much,
Right.
And if you want something that's really, tailored to your particular needs, you will have to either do it yourself or ask us nicely to do it for you.
Okay. Well, Alex, that's a lot about parsing. I wanted to come back to what we thought was going to be our talk for the day. We wanted to talk about all things parsing related.
Yeah.
And can you remind me of the other things that we wanted to talk about?
Yeah, we should discuss whether or not you should build your own scraper and parser.
I'm pretty sure that by now I'm convinced that it's not always worth the effort. But
yeah, well, the way I look at it is a lot of companies we work with right now, they have built their own stuff before, and they know just how hard it is, and at some point they realize that they want to concentrate on the part of their business where they generate the most value, and that in most cases is not scraping or parsing. It's the analysis of the data that they extract from the web or some other place. But that's so that's how, after this realization, it's much easier to make a decision to just buy a solution that's out there instead of trying to build your own stuff, because we are, we and even some other companies, even some other solutions, they are reliable enough so that you can just set it up and stop worrying about it.
It just works.
Yeah, it does.
Most of the time.
Yeah. There's nothing is perfect, right? But we work well enough to be able to provide this service to hundreds of clients.
And so, is our reliability something that we are proud of? We probably are, right?
Yeah, of course.
We have all these monitoring tools, and I keep walking into the office, and I keep seeing the two monitors with our Grafana boards where we watch all of these things. And
yeah, there's a mantra in our team, like there's never enough visibility and observability, or whatever you want to call it, monitoring tools. There's never enough. And at this point, I'm not sure whether I should take it as a joke or whether it's it actually is true. But it seems like the more data points you have about your system performance, well, the more you realize that there's something you don't know, and you want to, sort of dissect it and get more visibility into the insights of every process. And then you're trying to build new stuff as well. So what will happen is you will never have enough visibility for everything. You can just cover them, the main points, and then sort of, if you have time, just try to go into more depth. But there's never going to be enough visibility, just sort of an okayish level that you can really cope with.
And so on the topic of visibility, do we see that we talked about all the things that are important to scrapers?
Yeah, I would say most of them. We certainly know when things go wrong, and we have good tools that help us figure out what went wrong and what was the root cause of the issue, so that we're able to eliminate it. At least in the least amount of time that we can do it.
Well then, on the topic of visibility, I'd like to call this an end for today. Alex, it's been an honor to have you. It's been so fun to hear about all of these things from you.
Yeah, good talking. It's an honor to be opening this series of podcasts. So thanks for having me here.
I loved it, Alex. And on the topic of visibility, I'd like to also remind you to look at our social media. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Anything I'm missing?
Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, that's the three, yeah.
The magic trio. Alex, do you happen to know, or do you happen to have any last words for today?
Yeah, scrape responsibly and parse safely.
Thank you so much for being with us. Once again, welcome to the OxyCast. We'll see you another time.
Cheers.